So over the course of the last couple of years, the legislature, including before I was even in the legislature, but the majority party has put forward this legislation to increase the minimum wage for fast food workers. And it would set it at $20 an hour plus adjusted for inflation. It created this this council to determine, what's right within a fast food environment and things like that. But what last year when this legislation passed is it had carve-outs, it had exemptions for certain types of businesses. And one of those exemptions exempts people or businesses, that make dough, make bread on site, and they sell it individually. So for example, Panera bread, you can buy just the bread alone. So this carve-out exemption is so small, so niche, so unique that we don't really know why that business is exempt, and the governor is really not being transparent on that, and he's being very evasive. But that's what the legislation did. It passed with, the majority party passing this on, and but also I think it was Bloomberg News that put together the fact that one of the largest contributors to the governor is an individual who owns Panera breads around. So we've kind of coined it Panera Gate, that one of the governor's donors is receiving a benefit of this, closed door meeting. The provision says that the state of California will exempt from the minimum wage increase a place in which they bake the bread on premises. They will be exempt from the rule to increase minimum wage. So apparently that only applies to Panera, and it only applies to one other place. And the way it worked is they also cut this off on September 15th of 2023. So in other words, if you weren't already doing this, you had already be doing this, then you're exempt from the minimum wage increase. I think what they're trying to prevent is obviously smart business owners saying, hey, we're just going to bake the bread on site and put together the dough and all those sorts of things on site, because that's what, California business owners do. They're innovative. And look, and so they would find a way around this law by doing it. But the governor's office and the legislature, the majority in the legislature, not me, voted for this exemption to only apply to people who are already doing it as of September of 2023. You actually have to sell the bread directly to the customers. So that's why places like, for example, Subway, this wouldn't apply to them because they don't sell the bread individually to customers.
We have done our own analysis on this, and we've talked to the governor's office, and they've told us that Panera is not exempt from this law because it doesn't have its own dough on site. They don't make their own dough on site. We have also talked to the Panera bread owner who has told us that actually even though if they are exempt from the law, they still have to pay people more. And we have done a lot more analysis and found what company is exempt from this law. It's only one company that's been recognized so far. Everything you need to know is in this article. Click on the link below, go to our website, read it for free, and then let us know what you think. Now let's go back to the opinion.
I've seen two pieces of legislation do this in major ways, major reform legislation. There's this one that exempts all sorts of donors, essentially, of the majority party. And then there was another piece of legislation in the past called AB 5, which had to do with independent contractors, for example, photographers being able to work on their own. And that piece of legislation impacted anybody who's an independent contractor in the state of California. But the legislature, the majority party, exempted so many different types of businesses and types of individuals. And so there are a lot of carve-outs. And you have to ask, why are there those carve-outs? I mean, what I would say is what's bad for, one business is probably bad for another business. And so if one's exempt, everybody should be exempt. But so this happens a lot. I mean, it really happens a lot. The governor himself called it sausage making. It wouldn't be totally shocking to me if the governor worked out all these negotiations and now to put it through the legislative process, you need an author of it. And so you find one and you give it to an individual. But I'll tell you, as a lawmaker myself, when there are amendments going through my bills, I have through the committee process, the chair will suggest, hey, you should take these amendments. I want to know what's in those amendments and what they will do so I can speak to them, so I can tell people what they do and what the reasoning is for that. So I don't really know if this is a normal process with the governor's big items that he tries to accomplish, but we've seen it happen in this scenario. And, I think really it is a responsibility of the author to know what's in the legislation. Usually when investigations happen on things that have to do with campaign contributions, it's very rarely the state of California does it itself. I mean, it isn't independent. A lot of times it's been the federal government to get involved. But we have requested the Attorney General to take a look into this. I think it's going to be hard for him to have an unbiased view. I mean, he's the same political party as the governor. And also he's rumored to be a candidate for governor in the near future. So it's going to be hard for him to really look at this outside of a political lens. So I think we need an independent investigation. There are several organizations that I think can do that. There's like the FPPC, which is the Fair Political Practices Commission. While they are a state agency, I mean, they are definitely, they hold people accountable. And then there's also obviously the FBI. But I think more importantly, no matter who investigates this, we have to get to restoring the public trust that this was not done for a donor or for a particular person, that there was actually a reason behind this, because the only way government works is if people actually trust that it's serving in the interests of the people and not special favors for corporate donors or something like that. So we really got to restore the public trust. And the only way that's going to happen is if it's an independent investigation. And you see that on the federal government a lot. If there is something going on, yes, the attorney general is usually in charge of the investigations, but he or she will appoint a special counsel to do the investigation. And they have sort of autonomy in being able to do that. So we need something in California that's going to restore the trust of the people. And by the way, the governor can help restore the trust by himself, by actually saying what the reason is for this carve out. I can't even tell you what the public policy reason is. I'm a public policy person. Sometimes you read things and you say, hey, this is the reason for it, X, Y, Z. He hasn't come out and said why this exemption is there. Who asked for it? Why is it there? The only thing he has said is he said, hey, this doesn't apply to Panera. That's actually what he said. Okay, well then who is it for? Why is it there? Who asked for it to be put in there? He can put the whole thing to rest if he was more transparent in this process, which he's definitely not being. In fact, he's being evasive. I mean, for this to make any sense at all and to not be connected to, anything on the political side, he's got to be able to walk through with the California people about why this exemption exists. What is the public policy reason? Maybe there's something out there like bakeries have a more difficult time complying or something. I don't really know what it is because he hasn't said. He has not been transparent himself. And I think Californians deserve that. Why is that? All he says is, hey, this is part of the sausage making. That's not what I want to hear. I don't want to hear there's a smoky tent, where people are going and making closed door meetings on behalf of the government and the people of California. That's not right. I want to know what the thought process was behind those decisions. I will say that one thing that we've noticed is, especially during COVID, when the legislature gave the governor, carte blanche to do kind of whatever he wanted to in running the state at that point, there were several things that in no bid contracts that went out to some of the governor's contributors and things like that. And so there's kind of a pattern of these happening, of this type of thing happening. With AB 5, there's exemptions for other special interests and things like that. So I think as a part of an investigation, we really need to look at what's the pattern. I mean, again, maybe nothing happened. I mean, I'm hopeful, actually, that nothing wrong is happening here. But we have to restore the trust with the people in California that nothing illegal is happening here, no quid pro quo, and that this was a deal being made. But at the end of the day, even if all of the thing, nothing illegal, at the end of the day, you still have what the governor said himself is sausage making.